Hello my friends and welcome back to another video where today we will be looking at 5 kings and rulers of their people that we could see in the upcoming Amazon Lord of the Rings TV series. I will be making separate videos on the queens and I already have a series on Númenórean rulers. The ranking in today's video is in no particular order at all. Without further ado, let's get right into it. In at number 5, we have Armdir, the king of Lórien in the Second Age, and he was Sindarin. King Armdir is an interesting figure, as even though not too much is written about him in the Second Age, the fact that he is the king of Lórien and has some political authority in Middle-earth, Amazon could use this to their advantage if they want to incorporate more politics and especially show the establishment of the divisions between the separate elven factions in Eriador. But what do we know about King Armdir? Well, firstly, it makes sense to go all the way back to the formation of his kingdom, where presumably after the War of Wrath, he moved to Eriador and founded the kingdom of Lórien with his son Amroth, alongside another king, King Orapha in fact, that we're going to be looking at later, where both after the war went and formed their kingdoms after going eastward. Anyways, the realm of Lórien under Armdir was actually quite peaceful for most of the Second Age, even during the sacking of Originz and events of the Forging of the Rings, where Lórien wasn't actually really that harmed, especially due to the actions of Sauron not spreading that far. The actions of Armdir occurred during the late Second Age, where he joined the rest of Middle-earth during the War of the Last Alliance, where he answered the call of aid from Gilgalad to help defeat Sauron once and for all. But Armdir didn't actually in the end rally under Gilgalad and his forces, but instead joined a mini coalition army with King Orapha. Ultimately, this smaller second front suffered heavy casualties, especially at the Battle of Dagorlad, where he also met his doom. In at number 4, we have Gilgalad, the High King of the Noldor and elves in Middle-earth. Just like Armdir, the king of Lórien, after the War of Wrath and the turn of the age, Gilgalad in the year 1 of the Second Age founded the vast kingdom of Lindon in the far northwest of Middle-earth. He was the last heir of the High Kings of the Noldor in exile, thus giving him legitimacy to being the High King of the Elves of the West. We are unlikely to see the early parts of the Second Age, but noticeable event that could be a flashback scene is when Celebrimbor left Lindon after some unrest in his kingdom and went and founded Originz. But moving forward, a more likely event we could see surrounding the High King Gilgalad is through the tale of Eldarion and his many voyages from Númenor and exploring Middle-earth and the coasts, where he in fact sailed to Lindon and met with High King Gilgalad. A crucial moment during this event was that Gilgalad gave a letter of warning to Eldarion, who would then sail back to Númenor and pass this on to his father, who was the king of Númenor at the time, Tar-Mineldur. This letter warned the Númenóreans of a shadow that has arisen in the east, and this was of course Sauron. In the year 882 of the Second Age, Eldarion took this letter back, thus establishing the first relationship between Númenor and Middle-earth, and Gilgalad had a big part to play in that. During the events of the Forging of the Rings, which we are bound to see in the earlier seasons of the show, Annatar aka Sauron tried to befriend the elves in Middle-earth. However, despite being able to deceive Celebrimbor and the Great Iron Dane in Originz, he was not able to fool Gilgalad and Círdan the Shipwright, so Annatar was unable to seek an audience with the king in Elendil and was rejected in going into the kingdom. Also, Gilgalad politically and militarily was involved during the War of the Elves and Sauron, as in 1693 of the Second Age, he sent a host led by Elrond to help support Celebrimbor against Sauron's forces during the sacking of Originz and the fall of Eriador, while also calling for aid from Numenor. This Numenorian fleet eventually came and arrived in Elendil first, which helped change the course of the war and eventually Sauron's defeat, so Gilgalad had a big part to play in the success of the free people of the Middle-earth during the War of the Elves and Sauron. After this, Gilgalad continued to extend his realm across Middle-earth. Finally, as we all know, Gilgalad led one of the hosts of the Last Alliance alongside the Numenorians and faced Sauron in single combat, but he was set on fire and perished to the hand of the Dark Lord. In at number 3, we have Durin III, the king of Khazad-dûm and of Durin's folk in the Second Age. Some even thought he was a reincarnation of Durin I, as stated in Appendix A. As a ruler and king, Durin III was able to create a rare friendship and alliance with Originz and especially Celebrimbor. Durin was given the first of the 7 Dwarven rings by Celebrimbor and his craftsman, the great Imardane. Just as mentioned earlier, during the sacking of Originz, Sauron's forces teared through Originz, and in response to their neighbours and now friends, Durin III sent a great force and army of dwarves to help aid Celebrimbor and the Originz elves. Still, Sauron's forces were able to push forward, and this resulted in Durin III shutting the doors of Durin, which were once open to all for many centuries. This event allowed Elrond and his host to escape from the carnage of Originz and go and establish Imladris. In at number 2, we have King Orapha of the Woodland Realm. Earlier in the Second Age, when many elves left the kingdom of Gilgalad, Orapha travelled eastward to Greenwood the Grey, and in 750 of the Second Age was crowned as king of the Woodland Realm after settling there for some time. Throughout the Second Age, he kept on moving up north and originally settled in the south of the woods. During this time, Orapha was quite detached from much of what happened in the Second Age, but was still disturbed by some rumours and murmurs of the shadow of Sauron rising again. Finally, during the War of the Last Alliance, even though he did not want to meddle in the affairs of Middle-earth, he still understood the current threat of Sauron and therefore joined the Last Alliance of elves and men, but formed a separate host with King Armdir of Lorien, as politically they did not want to be seen as inferior to Gilgalad and be under his command but their own instead. However, this decision bared damaging consequences, as firstly their armour and weapons of their army were poor, and they did not listen to the command of Gilgalad and rushed too early into battle, which resulted in them losing 2/3 of their army, and King Orapha of the Woodland Realm was slain and perished at the battle. Finally, in at number 1, we have Elendil, the King of Arnor, King of Gondor, King of the Southern Realm, yes, a lot of titles. Elendil was a Numenorian and the last Lord of Andunai in Numenor, which was a title given to the lords who ruled the shoreland region of Andustar in western Numenor from the great city of Andunai, as shown on screen right now. During the late Second Age, there was a political divide between the Kingsmen who believed in Melkor worshipping and the colonialization of Middle-earth, and then the faithful who still supported the Valar, even though the belief for them in Numenor was diminishing as time went on. But When the downfall of Numenor occurred in the year 3319 of the Second Age, Elendil along with his son Isildur and Anarion took 9 ships which was full of everyone's possessions, and they fled from Numenor and survived the downfall. Eventually, Elendil landed northwest of Middle-earth and founded Arnor in the north, and then Gondor was founded later on in the south. Sauron then attacked Minas Ithil, and in response Elendil formed an alliance with King Gilgalad, and this was the beginning of the formation of the last alliance of elves and men at the end of the Second Age. They together marched to Imladris and set up camp there for a few years with Elrond, but in 3434 of the Second Age, the war finally began. At the Battle of Dagorlad, Elendil and Gilgalad both fought Sauron in one-on-one combat, but unfortunately Elendil was slain by Sauron. If we are to see the entire of the Second Age in the show, then the role of King Elendil will be vital for the final act of the show, due to him taking the faithful away after the downfall and being the father of Gondor and Arnor. In today's video, we looked at 5 kings in the Second Age. We aren't fully sure what periods of the Second Age the show will cover, but if it is covering the entirety of the Second Age, then this video has covered all the main kings we will see. Also, shout out to Kamul as well, who couldn't make it, who is one of the kings in Harad and down the south and east of Middle-earth. Also, I know the Witch King could have been involved and the Kings of Men, but I'm thinking of doing a separate video on that, as I believe there's more to flesh out on that and speculate as well. But thank you guys for watching, I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe, but until the next video my friends, goodbye.